Hello, possums. Here we are on the other side of the beginning of the nightmare. Okay, so I just want to say, if you are feeling outraged and anxious and sad and bewildered and horrified, that is okay. That is actually a normal response for anyone who is a sentient being with a brain and a heart, right? It's a perfectly understandable reaction. So we're all in this together because this is a global nightmare. And so at the end of this video, I'll be talking with more ways to deal with these emotions because it's shock and awe, is it not? You know. Now, I'm sure every one of you, like me, refused to watch the said event, but it's almost impossible to avoid. So Elon's moment of retrospective horror in the form of the salute went around the world instantly. It was chilling to the bone, absolutely shocking. I never thought I would hear or see the sight of a select American audience booing previous presidents. The whole thing was horrifying. And there were lighter moments too in the horror, including the very strange hat that Melania was wearing, her Zorro hat. What was that about? And a viewer pointed something interesting out to me. I spoke about Caligula a few videos back, the mad Roman emperor who made his horse a consul. And the viewer said Caligula's wife, her name was Melonia. I mean, really, you couldn't script it, could you? You absolutely couldn't script it. Now, meanwhile, I think my feel on this is that Musk is going to start coming undone. He's starting to unravel, um, like the gamers who operate at that supremely high level. And he's been pretending for some time to be one of those gamers that just kills it. And of course, now people can see he's out and about. He couldn't possibly be on that game that we are playing live now. No. So he pays people to be him as gamers. There is no floor too low, but he'll come undone and we'll be here to witness it. All right. Now, um, what I want to kick off with, which is about, I think this is actually really interesting. So note on Grover Cleveland. He was the last president to serve two non-consecutive terms, right? Back in the day, late 1800s. So now he was opposed to the newly forming labor movement. He squashed that violently and unnecessarily. He insisted on all sorts of things that led to nearly 500 banks going broke. That's a lot of banks back then, right? He was also the president when Hawaii was illegally annexed. And although he didn't think it was a good idea in itself, I will say that for Grover Cleveland, but nonetheless, it went through on his watch. So we've got to be acutely aware of history because it circles around. Okay, so what I want to look at is short-term economic impact of the Yeti and slightly further out. Let's have a look because the markets are drifting down, but if he announces and goes ahead with those tariffs or even a version of them, it would be terrible. So let's have a look. The American economy in the sort of immediate short term, meaning I guess a month or so, and a little further out. Let's have a look. Mhm. All right, I'll make this short term and then I'll pull cards for longer term. Now, these are quite lovely cards under normal circumstances, maybe even now. Three major arcana out of four cards. All right. So the page comes along with a message about money. Hello. The star, which is my card generally for joy, inspiration, and hope, and it's quite aspirational. I think people will, with this lover's card, I'll cover the bits. I've got that habit from Hogarth. So partnerships, meaning big banks and credit agencies and stuff, will be ticking over short term. The Empress is a card of fertility and things. So these cards, short term, the next month, look not too bad. Okay, so the system more or less ticking over, even with this will the Empress might be some crypto taking off or something like that. Hate to say it, but they looked all right. So let's have a look a bit further out, see if there's a contrast. Okay. Economy further out. Well, that makes a bit more sense. I think these first cards were the honeymoon and La La Land. You know, how much would you pay not to go on a honeymoon with the Yeti? I mean, really. So things will start moving very quickly after the first 4 to 6 weeks in financial terms. Here he is. This card always turns up for me with the Yeti on his stone throne. Just make it happen. I mean, that's always been his modus operandi. He can ask the impossible and the illegal and the disastrous and just insist people do it. So there he is. It starts to bite around that time. There's going to be legal issues, which we'll look at shortly because there's going to be a tsunami of legals on the horizon. Legal problems, and then the economy will start to have some pressure on it. This is the warrior in between battles. I think this symbolizes the average American working family. I don't like terms like normal and average, but you know, we've only got so much of a vocabulary. People will be feeling it by the 2 to 3 month mark because a lot of the things they intend closing down will still be in the system. You know, so for the FAFO maggers, they'll still be able to get this and get that, and then it'll stop and it'll be, oh, how did that happen? Yeah. Not the most insightful of groups. Now, speaking of that, where's my notes on the legals? I was watching Legal AF, Michael Popock, and they're feeling it too at Midas Touch Network, MSNBC, and you know, Rachel Maddow. Oh, everyone's feeling it. It's acutely, you know, acutely troubling at this point in time, which is why it's especially important to be part of the resistance because that keeps you stronger. Okay, so Michael Popock was saying there's this Federal Advisory Committees Act. Why is that important? Well, the Yeti or his henchman invented Doge, which has to be the Department of Greed and Evil, doesn't it? Really, I think that's what it'll be referred to on this channel from now on. But you can't just magically create a government department because you want to. There's actually a process. How extraordinary, no? And so already legal suits have been launched. And one of them is by the Federal Advisory Committees on behalf of the Committees Act. And their acronym is FACA. You've got to love that, particularly with an Australian accent. FACA. Maybe it should be FACA. Okay. And so this is a group saying, no, sorry, Your Honour, this actually can't be like this. So there's going to be many, many lawsuits. So let's have a look collectively at what's going to be going on in legal land. Oops, what fell out? Oh, the King of Swords, a legal card. Love that. Okay, so let's have a look at FACA. Oh, sorry. Give you a glimpse. I was so busy raving, I forgot to bring the screen down. Okay, so swords, interesting. King of Swords, this is a major legal card. So these things are going to start, but as we know, agonizingly slow. This could now work in our favour because these legal things could tie things up, at least for 2 years until the midterms, right? So these legal things are important and have a role to play. Now, the other energies around this just random anarchic display of macho drivel that is allegedly a cabinet. Look at this. The Two of Swords. There's going to be fights over this. And I think this is legal gladiatorial territory. This is not just pushing pieces of paper around. I think people are going to get their teeth into these lawsuits, and there will be so many, you'll be able to choose your own favorite couple of lawsuits to follow, like, look at this. Look at this. Now, look, this figure is drilling into people's heads. So while the legal eagles are trying to sort this stuff out, all this misinformation and poison will be fed directly into people's brains. Are we surprised? No, no. Knight of Swords, which is the most impulsive knight. Look at the teeth. This is in the sense, this is them attempting to carry on regardless. I'm president and I'm also president. Energy of we'll just do it. We'll just do it. Spanner in the works. Spanner in the works. The whole legal system has not been corrupted to the extent of the Supreme Court, entertainment purposes only. So this is going to present them with spanners and it's going to cost them money because they won't be able to do things as they want to do them. So, for example, the Yeti is talking about doing away with federal taxation. Well, what would happen then? The blue states, particularly California, fifth biggest economy in the entire world on its own, and the blue states, even though it'd be massive upheaval, would survive this tyrannical regime. The red states wouldn't. They're basket cases economically without federal dividends regularly coming in to the governments and directly to the people. So, I think it could even go so far. I just heard poll tax. I think before the midterms, he's going to try and introduce a poll tax, i.e., you have to pay a sum of money in order to be able to vote. I think that's going to be on the table. Bizarre. Bizarre. Okay. Now, another thing I wanted to look at, I'll get to that in a moment. I digress. I've got two digressions here. Just before I came on my news feed, because he only employs the best people, unfortunately, um, no one agrees with that assessment. So one of the executive orders that went through yesterday was that there are only two genders, and there's males and there's females, and it's your gender at conception in italics. The order actually says your gender at conception. Right. I'm sorry, conception is a fertilized egg. It hasn't got a gender identity pet. And this is what happens when you use the Bible instead of a scientific manual. Right? But any ninth grade child should be able to correct that. But that went through, and it'll be on the history books. Can you believe the caliber of these people? It's shocking. Okay, I've forgotten what our other digression was, but I'm sure it'll come back. Now, um, what I want to have a look at now is, horrendous as it is, I want to look at um, these mass immigration programs, forced mass arrests. And of course, he's starting in Chicago because it's a sanctuary city. Let's have a look. This raises tremendous complications for law enforcement, armed services. Absolutely horrendous. What can we expect to see? Again, I'm going to go short term and a bit longer. There's the big stick. Oh my word. Okay. Now, maybe we don't need further out. I'll just draw an extra card instead. Oh, all right. Now, here's the big stick, the Fred Flintstone card. Yeah, just do it, just do it. The Knight of Pentacles. Now, this has always been, for me, in political readings, the mercenary card. That sent a little shiver down my spine too, because the armed services are facing a terrible dilemma because he is their commander-in-chief. They are supposed to obey orders of the commander-in-chief. He will no doubt declare a border emergency if he hasn't before I woke up this morning. However, they're obliged also not to carry out illegal orders. But because of the emergency, I guess we'll leave it. We could see a situation, I hope I'm wrong about this, the mercenary actually paid, hired foot soldiers to do some of the uglier aspects of this. But I tell you what, this will not work. The Tower is major, 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 major. I think he might go that far, right? But this is going to not work for him in the beginning. I pull the King of Cups, which has always been my Biden card. And when I pulled an extra card, Queen of Cups, what are the chances? 78 cards, King and Queen, same suit. This is the card of compassion. And I think people are going to be shocked. So it's going to cause yet more division, And you're going to get MAGA files probably, rushing off to borders and things because they're dying to get out and about. But the general population, particularly those who are notionally of faith, I won't just say Christians of any faith, should be horrified and opposed to this. It will bring out the compassion in people. And I'm hoping this is one of the things as we move through the next few months and even years to realize this is a big awakening for us all because this is a global drama. We are all impacted by this. It is fortifying far-right, nutcase, inadequate parties all over the world. We are all impacted. I think it has to get this bad almost before people reach into their own hearts and say, no, it's enough. It's like this. It has to get to that stage. And let us remember, revolutions are not comfy spaces. And I think many of us thought, particularly those of us who were older, that as boomers, the last Great War and all of that until Vietnam came, and then the way to get around that was not to call it a war. It was never actually called a war, even though everyone spoke of the Vietnam War and nothing else for 10 years. But anyway, so I think we were sort of thinking, oh, well, my last few years or whatever. But now we're all being called to the symbolic barricades. The barricades now probably represented by a keyboard. So let's have a look. I'm going to pull some cards for us as a community. Right. There are other things, but time's moving on here. Just hang on. It's really, really important. Oh, we just got the tower, right? Now, let me talk a moment on this. For those of you who watch my videos for the political content and not the tarot, you might want to sign off now, or you might choose to stay and think about something. The thing with towers, never try and get through a tower on your own. I say this adamantly to my tarot students. Don't try and do it on your own. Get support and be part of a support for other people. You need support that gives you the solace and the energy to offer support. That's how it needs to work. And one of the exciting things that I hope is going to be revealed by all this is people are going to band together and use the R word, resistance, in a way they haven't for 30 or 40 years, All right, advice for you guys. Just before I do this, another snippet. I saw again, reluctantly, I saw a snippet of the Yeti's speech where he said, America was great. America split the atom. No, sorry, it was Sir Ernest Rutherford, who was from New Zealand and who worked in the UK and Canada, who split the atom. Sorry, just keeping the record straight. Ah, okay. All right. What do these viewers need to know? All right. Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. All right. I thought it was going to be more about health and well-being, and in a generic sense it is. However, holding on, this is the time to lick your wounds. Take some time. lick those wounds. You know, it's okay. It's okay. Looking inward, sure, but looking to your heart. We just had this Queen of Cups representing compassion in relation to the borders. All right. Don't lose faith. Don't lose heart. Keep your kindness, right? Now, then comes a time for action, and maybe action on different fronts, because I'd encourage each of you to choose one issue, or some people prefer to deal with a few issues rather than one thing in depth. Choose, but there'll be a lot to choose from, let's face it, right? Time for action. The ones. The Hanged Man. People are feeling tied up and at the mercy of this abysmal, abject GOP that is now simply MAGA. But when you're upside down, you get a new perspective, right? It's also the card of the willing sacrifice. Willing sacrifice. Find something you're passionate about and you're prepared to put the energy into. But don't work yourself to death over anything. You might decide to do something intently and take a break, or you might choose to only do something once a week, whatever your rhythm is. But make sure you're doing something, because it's handy to know. Now, when I do readings for people, particularly if they're not tarot literate, this is a very confronting card, right? But this is like what the last 10 years have been like. The good news about the Ten of Swords, they can't hurt you anymore. Tens are the end of a tarot cycle, then the aces start. You know what? They've already done it. So it's not to say that some of you may be impacted by some awful laws. I'm not saying it's impossible, but in general terms, you've already been wounded enough by the pit. No more. After this comes the Phoenix. Okay. The question you need to ask yourselves, this is the card of the legacy going on here. Pentacles, not always about money, not always about real estate. It's about your values. So what is your legacy going to be? Are you going to be part of those who do right? Or just say it was too overwhelming, couldn't cope, and go underground? So that's why it's this dance between licking your wounds, finding your strength again, allying yourself with like-minded people. It's a process. You don't have to rush it, but it's important for all of us to get there so we are part of the light. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Love you. Big love.